Hey guys, new video here. I'm playing Hierophant, Stormbrand character. I'm going to do this T14 courthouse map so you can see a little gameplay first before I start talking about the build. Overall, it's pretty fun. It's got a nice playstyle. It's one of the new skills. So, oh, I didn't have my lightning jolt out. So basically, if the first and foremost thing I have to say is that, oh, we have assassination here, is that if you've seen my Stormcall videos, what you're going to notice is that it's pretty much like a scuffed Stormcall. I'm desyncing here a little bit. Let me grab this, +1 rank there, +1 rank there, and wait, is there another one? Oh, they're like stacked on top of each other, isn't that weird? Okay, so that was like some Betrayal League action there, but basically you're just running around. I think that ultimately you don't really need that much damage, so I'll probably want to switch from Whirling Blades, well, off of Whirling Blades, right, and then go running instead of whirling or shield charging for my main source of movement. But I'll get to that later. It's just that the colors are a little bit hard to get. And look, I'm full on Soul Fatigue, but I already have like a Nico mission in here, so it's kind of weird. So I'm just gonna go through to the boss right here, so you can see some. Maybe some people ask a lot about single target damage, you know, difference between Armageddon brand and stuff like that. And overall, it looks pretty cool, right? It's like. But once again, it is a scuffed Stormcall. So if you've ever played Whale Stormcall, the only thing that's different is that if you're looking for a consistent single target, like let's say you do want to farm some bosses or whatever, this can actually do it. Whereas a Stormcall, if you don't one-shot them, like you've seen my Chayubi kills on the Stormcall, or like the one-shots and stuff, if you don't one-shot the boss, or it's a boss's phases, then, you know, the Stormcaller is maybe falling a little bit behind. But that's really the only thing that it has, right, on this build. So basically, if you want to just map, right, any kind of map bosses up to T15, I would actually suggest that you guys play Stormcall. And then, okay, here's the boss here. And if you guys want anything that's like more well-rounded, hey, Forge of Ponix map, that's pretty cool, right? So let me leave out here. Then I would actually suggest you play this if you want some more well-rounded, if you want to play like a new skill, right? So that's my recommendation there. Okay, so what is the build focused around? Okay, so the build is focused around a Hierophant. Now, if you look at the skill tree here, what you're going to notice is that it's pretty much a spell crit skill tree, very familiar, you know, life-based spell crit skill tree. Now, what are the differences? Now, the in 3.5, the skill tree, it has these nodes right here, right? So if you look at these like little offshoots that you might not have seen before, these are things that are related to the runes. So runesmith, explosive runes, rune binder, and then down here there's primal manifestation, but I haven't gone there, although I do think it's pretty good. So there's this like, little extra thing. So one thing I'll say is that the skill tree is very level based. This is something where, like, if you pump a few levels into it, I'm level 92 right now, but if you pump a few levels to it, you know, 95, 96, you're gonna start feeling real good. Some builds, like we're starting right at level 70 something, feel like the build, but I'll say that this build didn't really feel, it didn't like come into its own until probably like level, you know, high 80s, level 90, because if you look at how many nodes these wheels have, right, like look at this travel here up to rune binder, look at this travel up to runesmith. I mean, this is only a 3-pointer, but look at this travel down to primal manifestation. It's really long, right? So that's like kind of an issue. I don't like how many rune nodes there are, but the payoff is that they do feel pretty good, and we'll talk about that. So why did I go Hierophant over, like, let's say Elementalist or something? Well, I just thought it was like cool that you don't really need damage at all, right? So what does Elementalist have? Elementalist has big damage, you know, big penetration, a little bit of AoE from time to time, and I guess immune to reflect, and a little bit of, does it have leech? I think it has a little bit of leech, right? But with Hierophant, you have this. So you can have an additional brand. So you have an additional brand. So when you do cast your brand recall here, it's a tiny bit more damage and possibly a tiny bit more attachment to the loosey-goosey packs that are all around. And then the big one is the 30% increased cooldown recovery speed. Now, Brand Recall is an interesting gem because with every level you get 10% increased cooldown recovery speed. And eventually I want to get my Brand Recall to level 11, 12 through item supports, things like that. And so you imagine that this node is basically plus 3 levels to Brand Recall, right? And then 14% increased brand brand attachment range. The default brand attachment range, meaning that like if I let's say I cast my brand right here. You see that brand right there? And you see where Navali is? Initially, it's like this. This is like the range of attachment, right? But then if you invest in brand attachment range, like you can like cast it like over here, right? Like double the range that it attaches to an enemy. So then what ends up happening is the brand attachment, how it works is it attaches, it does massive damage, and then once that enemy is dead, it flies to a nearby enemy if it's in range and attaches again and again and again and chains all around. Obviously you can complicate it with brand recall, but it just keeps attaching. So it does have like it's self-sustaining clear as long as there are enemies within the brand attachment range, right? And it also has like some kind of AoE, like the Stormcall also has like it shocks like multiple nearby enemies. So it's like it's pretty good. Now so the playstyle is basically at the beginning of the map. You see here, I drop my 6 brands, and you can see the indicator in the top left for how many brands you have. You drop 6, and then you just charge around, and then you recall your brands here. I'll just go into the map and show you. So it's kind of like weird because like you drop the six brands, and then you just recall it at basically on cooldown, right? And that's it. You recall it, and then for straggler packs, you just cast the brand if your brand recall is on cooldown. Now, one thing I'll say with the playstyle is that you really have to imagine this as not a melee spellcaster. It's really like I eat a lot of deaths, and that's because you, with this build where brand recall draws all the brands to you, you have this tendency to want to stick. Like let's say that this pillar is a monster you're killing, right? Something that needs single target. You have a tendency to charge in and hit your brand recall and then just sit here. But really, you should be playing this like a ranged spellcaster, where like once your brands are in range and your brand cooldown is or your brand recall is on cooldown, you should be dashing away because the damage is done, and as long as the brands are attaching, you're doing the maximum damage possible to that single target. And then once your brand recall is up, you can charge back in, recall, and then charge back out. Okay, that's kind of the play style there. So, and then obviously the brand cast range is actually pretty far, as you can see here, right? This is when you draw them all in, they go like this. So that's the play style there. Let's talk about a little bit of I guess a little bit more about the Ascendancy, the skill tree, and stuff like that. So my first normie lab, I did this. Sign of Purpose, so this gives you additional brand, you know. And another big thing is enemies take 10% increased damage for each brand attached to them. Because you can have up to 2 attached at once, it is basically they take 20% more damage, so it's like an extra support gem. Just imagine this as a support gem that says 20% more damage, okay? For, well, on single target, that is. On clear, you won't really need any damage, as you can see from that map. And so that's Sign of Purpose, and then of course brand attachment range once again helps you clear and helps you seek out that next enemy. The next point I went with my Cruel Lab was Conviction of Power. Now the reason I took this is because having an easy way to generate power charges that isn't reliant on a curse is nice, because hexproof maps are annoying, and like curse on hit, you know, sometimes sustained fights is a little bit annoying too, might drop off, but this is like pretty darn good. So, and also you get some endurance charges too, so a little bit more defensive, and then you penetrate, right, if you have a power charge, so a little bit extra damage there. Not bad. And then for Cruel and Merciless and Uber, I went for Illuminated Devotion and Arcane Blessing. So this is basically a free, like very low level Arcane Surge. You get 10% more spell damage all the time, 10% increase cast speed to get your brands out faster, and to like in between the brand recalls, you can cast a little bit faster. And then mana regen is kind of nice early on. I found that later, once you get used to the playstyle of brand recall and casting all these brands and stuff, you don't really need the mana, okay? Because I'm going mind over matter right here. You don't really need the mana at all if you know how to, like, once you get used to the kind of like the muscle memory of the build, okay? So, but of course it is nice because I have mind over matter and maybe sometimes like no regen or sorry, no regen, like less regen maps and stuff like that. You might want a little bit of mana and stuff. And then so another thing is that, you know how like Pathfinders have immune to ailments while Flask is active? Well, this guy has immune to ailments while Arcane Surge is active, and since you get an Arcane Surge when you hit an enemy with a spell, and brands aren't some special case like traps or anything like that, you are doing the damage. So just imagine you're casting a regular spell. like a very vanilla spell, you're always hitting with a spell, so you always have this arcane surge as long as your brands are up. So you don't need to get a you don't need to get a freezing of heat suffix on your flask. You don't need to get of grounding maybe. That's why you see I have a Vinctar, and so that's just like all around good. Not as good as the Pathfinders, right? Not on demand, or not as on demand, and a little bit weirder, but it's really good. And then of course this one, see, I get leech, and I also have like leech on my boots, but I'll talk about gear later. Spell damage leech as life, everything you deal is spell damage, so you're leeching 0.5% of that, which is enough. 40% increased spell damage, not that big a deal, but a little bit extra damage. And then AoE, and AoE once again is the skill is tagged as AoE, so not bad. 25% might be one or two, well, probably like 2 radius there, so not bad. And the little nodes don't really need to talk about that, right? So that's the skill tree. One variation that I've been like kind of keen to test out is Pursuit of Faith. Now, wait, where is it? Yeah, so all the totem stuff doesn't matter, right? I mean, I could do a Scorching Ray totem to help with my negative fire res on certain single target, but that's too clunky. I don't want to do that. But that node right there, that's a 6% increased damage per enemy killed. On average, you can have at least 50 enemies killed if you're zooming through the map, and that's 300% increased damage, right? Sometimes you get up to like 100 something, which is 600% damage. So it's like pretty crazy for map clear, but eventually you get a headhunter, and then you probably don't care about this. So it's overall, it's still pretty good node. And then how are you going to get the charges? Well, then if you get this, I would probably take Intuitive Leap right here, and then I'll take Overcharge, and I'll take Melding. And Overcharge should be able to sustain your power charges and frenzy charges, which are the only important ones, right? Endurance, maybe play hardcore. Okay, so that is the Ascendancy there, though. That's a swap to Pursuit of Faith. Test out both of these. It only costs 10 regrets to switch, so not too big a deal. Other things to note on the skill tree, Mind over Matter. This is like, I was taking this really early on when I had 3,000 HP because it really helped me out. And to this day, with how crazy the damage can be from some of these Betrayal guys, I feel that sometimes this helps me out, even though I only have 662 mana, right? Well, if I take out, I have like certain linkages, I could get 800 something mana, but I'm just kind of being silly. So it's like, it helps a little bit, right? I have seen it where like I go down to like 100 health and I have 0 mana, and then in those cases I'm like, oh, maybe Mind over Matter saved me a little bit there, right? Before I can leech it back up. So that's pretty important. Other than that, nothing too crazy on this tree. It's spell crit tree, everyone knows that, with added brand nodes and Mind over Matter. Jewels, you're going to look for just like, crit multi, elemental, lightning, spell, life, things like that. Nothing too fancy there. You obviously, if you can get later, Owl's Uprising, maybe a Wrath, Watcher's Eye or something like that, but that's way in the future, right? Nobody can afford that right now. So that's it. And then what about this this node right here? I rushed this node because it allows an additional brand to attach to an enemy, which means that the branded enemies, when you're not recalling on top of them, are taking twice the damage that they would regularly be. So this is a mandatory node right here. And currently you can only have 2 attachments to an enemy, barring any crazy crafts or something like that. But I don't think that actually works because like we've seen all the 13 new uniques and we've seen most of the crafts, so I don't think we can get more than 2 for now. In the future we might have uniques and stuff that allow us, but until that day we're selling for this. Okay, so that's the tree. Let's talk about the gear real quick. Are you ready to see my amazing gear here? Alright, so I'm going to show you the most expensive piece first, and that is my Carcass Jack. Carcass Jack is nice because it has life, it has a little bit of resist, and then it has up to 50% increased AoE, and that's important because a level 20 increased AoE gem, I think it's like 49 or something AoE, I can't really remember. And so you can essentially, if you're putting on a Carcass Jack, you can remove the AoE gem that was in here. Now, what did I put as for my links in here? So I have Stormbrand, obviously. I have increased crit strikes, and that's because obviously it's a crit multi build. I have lightning penetration. Most of my damage is lightning, as you can see on the tooltip here. So I'm penetrating a juicy amount of that. I haven't leveled this to 20 yet. And then I did faster casting, and faster casting actually increases the activation time. See, so you see how it says 0.23 seconds, it'll pulse. If I take out faster casting, look, 0.29 seconds. Isn't that crazy? So that's really nice. And then it also helps you get your 6 brands out, and in between like your whirling blades, you can like drop the brand a little bit faster in between your whirling blades to keep up the 6. Okay. And then control destruction. I have so much crit that like losing the 100% crit right there doesn't really matter. And it's a more multiplier, pretty nice there. Got lucky on the Stormbrand Corruptions. Just try to get a 2120. If you need to buy one, it's probably not too expensive. I think a lot of people are playing this now. And then this gem right here, I'm gonna swap out later too. Ice Bite. I have this in here just because I wanted a easy frenzy charge generation, right? And like this is very early on, is still in the build's development, so like swap these things around as you can to suit your own taste. But like this Ice Blight was just, once again, easy frenzy charge. Once I go here and these two, once I go back to that, I should say, I'm probably gonna drop this for something else. Maybe I'll even put in another increased crit, or not, sorry, increased AoE to get a little bit more AoE. We'll see. So maybe increased AoE, maybe, well, what's another good one? I don't know. Added lightning, maybe. There's some stuff you can put in here, right? Empower. I don't really know right now, but this has been doing the job. And then this also allows me not to use a Call of the Brotherhood because I have enough cold damage now to shatter everything and put my Herald device like prolifting all over the map. Okay, so that's actually the most expensive piece. Okay, let's take a look at the other amazing gear. I'm using a Bisco's Leash. Don't have a Headhunter yet, but I will soon. So Bisco's Leash is amazing because the Rampage stacks gives you damage and speed, and then Rampage bonuses are also nice. You get a little bit of quantity on here, a little bit of cold res, and I guess strength is a tiny bit of life. So not too bad. You can use this before you get a Headhunter. Pretty cheap right now. These boots, 41 life boots, 1 resist and 25 movement speed, and so these boots are pretty garbage, but I'm using it because in the Merc lab, you see that enchant, I have a little bit of mana leech, which helps a little bit, and the life leech, maybe, I mean, it adds with your Hierophant leech. So that's just what I had since, you know, for a while. It's like solo cell phone action here. So get better boots, get yourself 35% boots. There's also like some kind of crafted affix, I think, for movement speed, but I forgot what it is. I saw it on the crafting bench earlier. Maybe that'll stack with the actual roll. I don't really know right now. And get yourself some more life. And then I would say that like leech, I'd say like leech is like probably the best. Okay, that sound you're hearing in the background is my dog chewing on a bone. She got a new bone. She loves it. And so yeah, these boots are kind of garbage. And okay, let's talk about the rings. So I have a ring here. It's 67 life, 1 resist, and well, I guess 2 resists. So this is just what I had to cap my resist. This is pretty yeah, this is pretty embarrassing. I don't usually make build videos with like this level of items, but you know, I just it just like fills out my wrist. My resists are pretty good right now. Like I said, later on when everything gets better, we'll change these out. Okay, this item right here, this is just like high resist. I don't do any fire damage, so well, I do fire damage a tiny bit, so I guess it helps a little bit. But this ring is pretty trash too. 40 something life, and then just the resist I needed. Ultimately, I think you would either go like opal rings eventually with big resists and lightning damage, or you could get one ring like the socket ring that gives +5 to levels, right? Because you can put your brand recall in there. I've opted not to go for that. I'll explain to you why in a second, right? So get better rings. Like I said, it's just life, the resist you need, and that's it. All right, let's take a look at this amulet here. This amulet is it's a little bit of life. It's 1 resist, a crit multi, and then a tiny bit of spell damage. So once again, this was something I had really early on that was helping me fill out my resist, and I crafted life on it. So these are like, oh man, these items though. This helm was actually a easy snag. This was I think a little bit less than 1 exalt. I bought the Royal Burjoni base. It's eye level 84, I think, and so this was like if I count the fossils I threw in it, so the fossils I use are pristine for a life roll and then metallic for a lightning roll. Now I didn't even get the thing I wanted because I only bought 4 of them. The pristines were 1C each, metallics were 2C each at the time that I bought it. So the crafting cost was essentially 12C. And ultimately I wanted a -9 lightning res to nearby enemies, but I wasn't able to get it, and I didn't want to trade anymore for the fossils, so this is just what I'm stuck with. Now it's got a decent amount of life, and it's got the I think that this this enchant is probably the best. The additional chance to chain additional time is I don't think it's that great. So I just went with like the more single target because as you see from the map that I did at the beginning of this video, I don't really need any like, you know, clear help, I guess, right? So so this item is pretty good. Now let's talk about the dagers. So these dagers, I have a attack speed roll on them. I have a spell damage. This spell damage is an easy craft. It only costs like, it's a really cheap craft too, but it's better than like the old Katarina one, I think. And it has some fire damage to spells. Yeah, I mean, also some increased crit chance of spells, but this is pretty garbage dagger because like the fire damage to spells helps a little bit with my Cinder Swallow, but I'll talk about that in a second. So yeah, just get yourself some spell daggers, nothing to see here. This one's also like a little bit of attack speed, some crafted spell damage, and then the increased crit chance for spells, and a little bit of fire damage to spells. That was just like a little side effect of buying the dagger there. And so these are really, yeah, I mean, like very, very mediocre daggers. You can probably buy these for 3 or 4C now. Yeah, that's pretty bad. Okay, let's talk about the gloves. Gloves are Insanity gloves with double resist, and I was able to find these without the life crafted the life on them myself, and I guess the resist is actually pretty good, and the more attack and cast speed is for my whirling blades, because that's what I'm using. I'll go over gems, the other gems after I go to the gear, right? So these were extremely cheap too. If you search right now, something like this, I actually don't know how much. I whooped these like very early on, right? So like pretty half decent Insanity gloves, but not that expensive. You can probably make your own. Flask, okay, at Zubi's Promise right here, this is because I get my Elemental as extra Chow's damage, so a little bit more multiplier there, and also there's like some amount of Chow's damage in this game in terms of Whale Constructs, some of the Betrayal guys, so having extra Chow's resistances, especially if you take Alchemist node up here, is not bad, okay? And then a diamond flash because I am crit based and I have my staunching on here. You have to solve staunching somehow, unless you get a corrupting blood enchant on or a corruption on your jewel. Quicksilver, so this one I put warding and experimenters instead of the alchemist quicksilver of adrenaline. Now why did I do that? Because when you're whirling blades, it doesn't take into account your movement speed like shield charge does, so you actually don't really even need a quicksilver, but I chose to do this because like once I pop it, it is a little bit easier to pick up an item if I'm right near it, and also the warding is nice for the maps too, and this extends the duration, so I'm protected from curses longer. Okay, this is a very interesting, extremely cheap flask right now, and I like this because it fits a lot of different things. So first, it's Onslaught. It's a silver flask. Unfortunately, it does take 40 out of 60, so it's only one use when you press it, as you'll see right here. You know, you don't have 2 uses, but it gives you Onslaught, which is huge. Eventually I'll probably put that on Abyssal Jewel, but like for now this is good. And then it has crit chance during Flask Fest. So imagine this is almost 4 points. Well, what's like the range? It goes up 80. So if you have an 80, that's 4 points of crit on the tree on a flask, which is pretty crazy, right? And then it has a somewhat it has like a like, you know, it's Trickster's node, what's it called, Patient Reaper or something, that gives you all kinds of recovery on kill. It kind of has that on the flask when you the life is when you kill an enemy, but the ES and mana is when you kill oh sorry, actually all of these are when you kill an enemy, when you kill an enemy during the flash effect, but the ignited one, right? See, enemies ignited by you, and I have fire damage on my crit build, so almost everything gets ignited, and that makes them take 10% increased damage, which is, you know, a little bit of a more multiplier there. So that's really good, okay? And super cheap flask right now. Vinktars, I got this one from running the Vinktar square map, and it's just 10% penetration. It shocks nearby enemies. It gives me less lightning damage taken. A little bit of lightning res doesn't really matter there. So if I were to say use a wise oak or something right here, this will be really good for that. So those are the Flask choices there. Let's go over like the gems and stuff. So I have a whale haste as my whale skill, and the reason I have that is because once again the cast speed will affect the tick rate of the Stormbrand. So then this will like tick a lot faster, and you will have you're gonna have like better single target, and it's gonna make you whirling blades around faster. You're gonna cast your brands out faster. It feels pretty good. It just doesn't last that long. I have a Herald of Ice right here, and that's one of my, or I know it's not an aura, but I have Herald of Ice linked to Ink AoE for a little bit better clear. You don't need to take out this Ink AoE. If you look at this, see, I have 800 mana without the Ink AoE. I put it in, I have 660 mana, so it's still more than enough, but it feels pretty good. In here, I have Herald of Thunder, Curse on hit, Assassin Mark. I thought I'd just like throw in a Curse, because even though I can get charges easily, a Curse is always nice. Like if you have a Curse available, you should be able to apply that Curse, right? Just like the extra bonus. And the Assassin Mark gives me certain regen capabilities and, I mean, possible power charges off the start of the map, and possible you know, like crit multis and stuff like that. So it's all right, I guess, right? Extra damage from critical strikes, and so I like that setup right there. In here I have my brand recall. So my brand recall is linked to Empower and Enhance, right? I bought a cheap Empower and this one doesn't have quality, oh my god. But this one is, I leveled these from 1 to 2, and then once they hit level 2, they start giving you a little bit of bonuses. You see, this is 8% quality, and this one's just +1 level, which is 10% cooldown reduction there. And then this is just an Empower I'm leveling here, okay? And so that's my brand recall. Once again, you could put brand recall in the ring that gives you +5 levels to get 50 CDR, right? Or yeah, 50% CDR. But I figure like once you get level 4 Empower, and maybe you have like a +1, it's like, you know, you lose like 10%, and then you also get the Enhance, which is like brand attachment range, which is clear speed. So it's, you know, it's a debatable thing which one's better, right? The ring or having a 3-link. So make that choice yourself. You'll probably figure out some stuff with that. But eventually I want to get my brand recall to like 11 or 12, and that'll feel really good. What else do I have in here? In boots, I have a Summon Lightning Golem, because once again, cast speed and attack speed for the movement of my Whirling Blades, cast speed for the damage and output of my Storm Brands, and then I have the classic cast when damage taken, increased duration. Oh wow, this increased duration is ready for a GCP. Hold on, I didn't even know that, it's been so long. So the increased duration, cast when damage taken, 1 in Mortal Call level 3, right? So maybe it'll help me against some Porkies or something. Let me do this. See, now I have a level 20% increased duration there. And yeah, now if I was really going for the Muns, in my offhand I'm leveling Enlightens. I could put like 3 Enlightens here, right? And like drop some other stuff. I could drop this in AoE, put an Enlighten right here to level another Enlighten. In here I could drop Curse on his Assassin Mark. That's 2 more Enlightens, and that's when we can make some Muns there. But that's not something for this video. Okay, so that's basically the build. I mean, it's cruising. In Delves, it's really nice too. I think Delve is maybe going to get changed a little bit based on the complaints on Reddit and how annoying it is right now to get your cart upgrades. But once again, that's not for this video. Overall thoughts on the build. It's pretty good. It's fun. If you like new skills, if you like this playstyle, if you like I guess it's a clear speed build. It's fun. I like it a lot. Now, and once again, I have to say it again. If you only want a map and don't do Jardians, Elder Jardians, Shaper, Elder, if you don't want to do those things, if you just want to do a map, anything up to T15 or an Elder T16 strategy, whatever you want, just go Stormcall. Just go Whale Stormcall. It's going to be much better. Okay, in almost every way. So that's the build. I hope you guys enjoy that. That's my video. Okay. All right. Bye everyone. Thank you.